Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming along to this. It's our last Orchard Convo of this first series, and we're with Dr. Abigail Makim, and she'll be talking about biodiversity and interrow management in orchards. These convos are part of our Orchard Resilience project, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in the moment. But firstly, I'll just introduce you to Source for Life. So Source for Life is a non-for-profit, and we focus on supporting farmers to build and regenerate soils for resilient businesses, landscapes, and communities. We work all around Australia. My name's Talia. I'm managing the Orchard Resilience Project and based in Tassie. And we've also got Madison here from our team. And she's our research and engagement officer and also working closely on the Orchard Resilience Project. So the Orchard Resilience Project is about supporting fruit and nut growers to build soil health and climate resilience. It's funded by the Australian government through the Climate Smart Agriculture Program under the Natural Heritage Trust. And we're working with a bunch of amazing partners from multiple regions across Australia, mostly NRMs and farmer groups. What the project looks like is pretty varied. It's events like today, we've got webinars, but also field days, and in-person sort of regional activities, as well as demonstration farms, and we'll also be producing practice guides and a number of resources. So we'd love to keep you in the loop as the project unfolds over the next 2 years. So before we go any further, I'd like to kick off by acknowledging that I live and work on Palawa country on the east coast of Larapuna here in Lutruwita, Tasmania. Here and wherever we're all joining from, the practices and Indigenous knowledge systems of tending to the land and harvesting fruit and nuts has a really long and deep history, and Source for Life acknowledges and pays respect to the traditional custodians of Australia and their continuing connections to the land and soil and sea and water. In the Orchard Resilience Project, we're working with native foodways on exploring the opportunities for two-way knowledge sharing between fruit and nut farmers and their land management and First Nations communities. And we're really excited about that part of the project, so stay tuned for more on that. As with all the industries we work in, we're pretty keen to hear from fruit and nut growers themselves. And if you've got experiences that you'd be keen to get in touch with about practices that you've been exploring around soil health and farm resilience, it'd be great to hear from you. So I think Madison's going to put my email in the chat, and yeah, drop me a line directly, and I'd love to talk. So the format for these convos is that we'll have a short presentation from Abigail to get started, and then the bulk of the session is going to be a Q&A. So when Abigail's talking, if you've got questions, you can put them straight in the chat and we'll note them for later, or yeah, keep them in the back of your mind and have them ready to ask when we get to the Q&A. You can, if everyone could stay on mute, but keep your videos on, it'd be great to see your faces. And then when we get to the Q&A, if you'd like to expand on your question, you can come off mute if you'd like to. We'll be wrapping up around 12:55, and we will have a short feedback survey, which I'd really encourage everyone to do. It's a really important way for us to know what works and what doesn't and keep improving these for the future. The main thing we ask is that everyone's respectful of the different contexts and backgrounds and questions that are in the room, and take this opportunity to stay curious. It's also worth mentioning that, especially when we're talking about orchards and perennial horticulture, we might be drawing on examples from specific crops or regions or sort of climate zones. So it's worth keeping in mind your own context and what might be applicable and a good fit, and then leaving what doesn't. If you have just joined us and you missed the intro, it'd be great if you could put who you are, where you're joining from, and if you're a farmer, what you produce in the Zoom chat. So I might stop sharing and ask Abigail to share her slides. And while she does, I'll just introduce her. So Dr. Abigail Makim is an agricultural ecologist who works with a range of primarily subtropical crops in Queensland and New South Wales, ranging from macadamias and avos to lychees and blueberries. She works with growers to implement cover crops and native vegetation areas to ensure the regeneration and sustainability of ecosystem services on farm. She's been involved in a big variety of projects. Some notable ones are a big project with Hort Innovation in macadamia integrated pest management, which was about implementing management to support natural insect enemies and biocontrols. And this also included a network of trials with farmers to explore Interrow management, and also some various Landcare Australia projects on multiple crops on improving ecosystem services. And she also taught at New South Wales TAFE in macadamia orchard management. So I will hand over to Abigail. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Talia. Can you hear me, everyone?
Yep.
Hello? Yep. Oh, good. Yep, good. Just checking. Hello, I'm coming in from Turrbal and Yagara country, Brisbane, and I've got a presentation today for you on biodiversity and interrow management. I've got 16 slides and only 15 minutes, so I'm going to sort of whiz through the slides, which I'm hoping will be inspiring, and then hold your fire on the questions till after the 15 minutes. And also, don't worry, the slides will be made available to you if there's anything specifically that you'd like to get into in a bit more detail. So I'm going to focus today on a concept called managed vegetative diversity and two farming practices. One's cover cropping. That'll be the majority of the discussion, and the other will be a little bit on native vegetation included in orchards. But really I'll be focusing on cover cropping just because I don't have a whole lot of time. And what we're talking about with cover cropping is cover crops in the interrow, which is a pretty big change in management of the interrow for most orchard industries. What do? We want a living root in the ground year round. We want maximum ground cover, maximum root diversity in the below the ground, and maximum vegetative diversity above the ground. So I'm going to propose a question. Is this the silver bullet for all of the problems that everybody probably thinks that they've got at the moment in their orchards, whether that's under-pollination of the crop, whether that is soil-related problems or pest and disease pressures? What can particularly cover crops in the interrow contribute? I've done a lot of
Abigail, your slides have disappeared. Could you reshare?
Oh. Sorry, everybody.
No.
Yep. Wonder why. Okay, I'm just going to quit. And so where did we crash out?
You had the first slide up and then it dropped off. So.
Oh, don't you love PowerPoint? Okay, try again. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so what can you see?
We can see that, and if you just want to jump into
I will,
presentation mode, but yep, we can see it.
Just want to make sure you can see. So I just wanted to let you know I've worked in a couple of quite different contexts, particularly in subtropical and tropical crops. One of the big problems is in macadamias is dark orchards. That's an older orchard. And you can see we've completely lost ground cover in these orchards. And this usually comes with a lot of pest and disease pressures through time and a decline in productivity. Can you see the slides? Okay. And another area that I've done a lot of work in is the development of new orchards, macadamia orchards, particularly in the Bundaberg region in Queensland. This is a 300 hectare block. So this isn't even a farm, this is a block. And this was being developed for macadamias. And you can see there's a pretty significant disruption to the soils again here. And in setting up new orchards, there's a lot of opportunities to look into restoring and conserving ecosystem services. I don't know if anyone's ever seen one of these before. It's a matrix that you can use to make your own selection of seed mixes to put in the interrow. So don't worry too much about the particulars. This can be circulated. This is something I did specifically for Queensland because there's not a lot of information available for the tropical climate and subtropical climate. These are species that we trialled in tropical orchards and had some pretty good results in terms of interrow cover cropping. Then this just gives you an idea of what's the kind of magic mix that any individual farmer might think about putting together. I've got a fantastic Excel spreadsheet that you can then use to help you calculate your own seed mixes. So it's something that a lot of people, including Ross, for example, get pretty inspired by because you can start to target certain species for really specific ecosystem services. It might be attracting very particular pollinators and keeping them in your orchard. It could be below the ground benefits, legumes for improving nitrogen, or it could be using other species to mop up excess nitrogen. So there's a lot we can do with cover crops and the kinds of ecosystem services that they can bring. Here we go. So this is soil preparation or ground preparation in the orchard. This is the singular most important practical thing that you have to consider if you haven't ever done any cover cropping in the interrow. It's a lot of people think they're just going to get that seed mix out there and it's going to solve all their problems straight away. And what we've found fairly consistently in trials is it takes about 3 years to get the soil right when you think about the harsh punishment that the interrow actually consistently receives. It too actually needs some preparation even for cover crops. So you can see here some different strategies that we've implemented to get the interrow in good condition, ready to start seeding with cover crops. So we've sort of often what we've been looking at is preparing strips rather than the entire interrow, and doing one strategy might be chop and drop, seeding into the drop. Others where we're actually doing a bit of groundwork. There's no end of strategies. It really is obviously specific to the orchard and the machinery available and the time available. But I just want to really emphasize ground preparation is incredibly important for cover crops, and it is often the source of disappointment if people haven't actually put the time into it. So here goes Ross doing a little bit of ground preparation. This is an avocado orchard in Bundaberg region, and what we were doing is chop and drop strategy there right beside the trees because we're trying to maximize on the irrigation that's available in this orchard. Which won't reach the centre of the interrow, but it is reaching the shoulders of the orchard. And this is some heavier ground preparation in northern New South Wales where we've actually gone through and disturbed the soil before we've put the seed mix out. Machinery. It's a favourite topic for a lot of people, and it might be something that people want to really get into in the chat. There is some fairly specialised machinery out there if you're interested, if you want to spend the money, but you probably might not want to spend the money and you don't necessarily need specialised machinery. But I just wanted you to be aware that there are some pretty good orchard-specific seeders that are worth looking into, and also crimp rollers. This crimp roller on the right is an orchard-specific. It's 1.3 metres. And it is specific for operation in tight situations like orchards. This is an engineering company on the Darling Downs in Queensland that manufactures these. So these are not cheap, but if you're doing a lot of cover cropping, and we can talk about why you might use a crimp roller in more detail, this is something to consider. Just a bit more on actually putting time into preparing the seed mix is something we learnt through over a number of years in doing trials. You do get better results with better preparation of seed mix, there's no doubt about it. So we've, again, it's really up to you what you want to look into, but including coated seeds, inoculants, mixing the seed properly, dressing the seed and putting fertiliser out at the same time especially in the Interrow, where we've got pretty degraded soil a lot of the time, is really worth the investment of time and a little bit of extra money. This is about 5 years into a really major orchard restoration program in northern New South Wales. This was that dark orchard that I showed you right at the beginning. The row spacings were 5 metres, and they've taken out every second row and gone to 10 metres. And in the process of completely rebuilding the interrow reprofiling, they've put out these cover crops, sometimes several times in 1 year. So you can see here, this farmer's strategy was particularly to focus on cover crop strips down the middle, so that they were leaving, that's 3 metres wide, that strip, so that's a lot. That's a lot of vegetative diversity, and you can see things like buckwheat, sunflowers, sorghum, different brassicas underway there. And then under the trees, because macadamias are harvesting from the orchard floor, this grower has left that area pretty much with a single grass species that's easy to harvest from. So yeah, again, there's a lot of planning and a lot of preparation that's gone into this, but this is a really thriving system. This is chicory. I think that might be Ross's orchard actually. And we've got a pretty good oh, maybe it's Tafe. Sorry, Ross, if it's not you. Not you? Okay. It's somewhere in northern New South Wales, I can say that. And we've got a really good result there with chicory, which, just a little side note, chicory is great because it's got a really strong taproot. So good for compaction, and usually it'll persist in the orchard for a couple of years, which can be really useful and attractive to a lot of different insects. And this is Ross's orchard. And we've got some pretty significant strips on the outside perimeter of Ross's here. So we've got sunflowers, buckwheat, and a lot of other things in this seed mix that we can't see today. And one of the things that we're always considering with seed mixes specific to a crop is, for example, will this attract rats? So if rats are a problem in your orchard, you know, going back to that original slide that I showed you of what does a seed mix potentially involve, you might not want to include sunflowers if you've got a rat problem. Okay, here's the new orchard block in Bundaberg. This was a trial that we did to see what can we do. So you can see the trees are out. They've been out for about 6 months, and then we've gone into the interrow and put in seed. And this was a bit disappointing. But I think this is a very good lesson for everyone to see just how expectations can be incredibly high about what miracles cover crops can achieve. And we didn't really have a lot of time to do ground preparation. You can see this soil is really, really in bad shape. There's clay pan here. It's been really heavily disturbed. It's really dry. These trees are irrigated, and there had actually been almost 12 months without rain just before we put the seed mix out. Yeah, that was the status. So in some ways we were expecting more than was achievable, and but you've got to do these things in year one. And you can see we've even lost quite a lot of soil out of the centre of this, which would have happened irrespective of whether a cover crop had also gone in. But you can see that this has not been quite the miraculous result that we might hope for. What we did start to see, as with that avocado orchard that I showed you, that we were starting to get, because it's adjacent to the irrigation system along the shoulder of the trees, we were getting better germination and better persistence. And so that was a strategy with this orchard that we were looking at for future years, was rather than seeding down that centre area, which is actually where they tried to seed, right through the middle where the car's parked, to shift the seeding to the shoulders beside the trees. So, you know, this is from year 1 to year 2, you can see lessons learned, and you can really start to get results once you work out what's working, what's not working. This is an avocado orchard in Bundaberg, and here we can see on the left-hand side, no, sorry, really excellent results with flowering brassicas. And for this grower, he noticed a considerable increase in fruit set because there was so much flowering in his interrow in the lead up to flowering in the trees. So it did help to keep the bees and other pollinators in his orchard. And yeah, he was definitely noticing better pollination results. Again, this being particular to Bundaberg, we're getting much better results by going for the shoulders rather than the center. And you can see on the left-hand side, there's vetch growing in there, there's pea, cowpea, and so, you know, really getting some great diversity in terms of soil health benefits and also beneficial insects. This is another trial in Gympie. Again, this was pretty difficult year one, a new block, disturbed soil and very dry conditions. And there was sort of little patches of heavy success and then a lot of areas with not great success. But in terms of things like bringing in and keeping insects in the beneficial insects in the crop, this is not a bad result for year one. And again, we learnt some good lessons for what future years might involve. So there you can see quite a lot of flowering. That's a daikon. Has anyone, perhaps we can talk about that, but there are a particular species of daikons being used in cover crops with, they're called tillage radish, and they have an enormous taproot or, you know, daikon root, and they are really able to break up clay pans. And again, people with really bad compaction and layering issues in their soils have been using these to great success. And there you can see this grower is actually experimenting with an irrigation system. That's what those really high poles are. So again, often the introduction of things like interrow cover crops comes with other experiments like irrigation. Here we've got a bit more below the ground detail on the kinds of results that we're getting. So not great in the hand holding the legume results, great nodulation there with fixing of nitrogen. The photo at sort of 1 o'clock is two different, one's sorghum on the left and one's sunflower. And you can see something magical's happening there with the sunflower, where we're getting root exudates really starting to bind up the soils to great effect. The bottom right-hand corner, that's the tillage radish. That's because this ground's so compacted, the tillage radish actually exploded out of the ground. It can't go down, it's gone up. But so again, what we were finding in these kinds of compacted soils is over about 3 years of repeated reseeding of things like tillage radish, sorghum, sunflower, they were really able to start to change the soil condition. And the left-hand bottom photo, that is sorghum, and it sort of just to emphasize the value of the mixed species and the different root types and root structures, and also chemistry that comes with the below the ground benefits of cover crops. So that was actually some pretty good improvements in that soil just in 1 year. That's year one for those cover crops. And then let's not forget the insects that will come in. So the beneficial insects, these are often even quicker than the soil benefits, to be honest. You can see them like instantly almost. As soon as things start flowering, you'll see a change in the insect populations in the orchard for the better. And so you will get, you know, you'll start to get generalist predators, which is top left hand and right hand. So hoverfly and lady beetle, they're sort of considered generalist natural enemy predators. And then also bees obviously coming in for sunflowers. Bees love sunflowers. And that's sun hemp on the bottom left-hand side. Look, people go a bit crazy for sun hemp in their seed mixes because it's very vigorous and robust. It really only will grow in the subtropical and tropical climates though. So just on insects and how are we going for time? Okay, time?
You're a little bit over time,
Oh,
Abigail.
okay, well, that's it. That's my last slide, so I can wrap
Oh.
it up and people can ask questions.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Abigail. That was great and awesome to see so
Okay,
many
how are we doing?
photos of all the work um, that you've done. So yeah, if people have questions, please pop them in the chat and we'll start compiling them and ask Abigail. And yeah, looking forward to the discussion with you all. Thought to get us started as well, it'd be great if the people here or if the growers here, like if you can either put your hand up or you can in Zoom raise your hand if you have tried diversifying your interrows with some cover crops before. Be yeah, just handy to see an indication of where people are at. Ross, you have? Yeah. Anybody else?
Maybe not.
Maybe
While
not,
people
that's all right.
thinking about that, I'll sort of give you an idea of what we're actually investigating when we've been doing trials of cover crops. So there's a practical aspect of which I spoke to mostly just then about, is this the right combination of seed mix for my orchard? Can I get this out in a seeder? Will it grow? Do I need, will it thrive without or with irrigation? Will I have access to managing my trees and my crop? Those are the practical considerations. There's also considerations that are worth doing some research, whether that's through your industry body, because with macadamias in particular, we got a lot of resistance early on about doing this because there was two main areas of resistance. One was this will bring insect pests into the trees. And the other was this will bring rats into the orchard. And so over the life of this trial, which went for 3.5 years, we were able to establish the majority of seed mix species that are recommended for cover crop will not host any pests of the crop. And just with some fairly strategic management decisions about what goes in and when it goes in and whether it needs to be so I'm talking about rats specifically now. Sometimes you need to make some decisions that you're going to make anyway about rats. And we also found that a great place to get people started was just to change how they mowed their interrow, even as one step before getting seed mix out, in terms of just what's practical, what can I do on my farm this season, is just to reduce the amount of mowing, even if that's a strip. Down the middle or beside the trees, one strip in each interrow. And we did get results indicating again that improved insect diversity just to reduce mowing. So what I want to just confirm there is that by fairly judicious but not overly onerous selection of the species, we did not create insect pest problems. People were able to make their usual management decisions around things like rats, and people were able to make their own decisions about what kind of machinery have they already got in order to get something out, whether that's a grass strip or a seed mix, and to trial it and to remove it if it was not working for them, and then what to move into for the second and third years.
Awesome. Those are some great suggestions for the things to consider, especially when you're getting started. Had a few questions come through, so we'll jump into those. Oh yeah, very relevant to what you were sharing, Abigail. Lyndon has asked he said that they're new and small scale mango growers on very poor sand. Yeah, similar to what you were just sharing. Where do we get started with info on cover cropping, including preparation methods, seeds?
Wow, just a few questions, all the right ones. So where do you already have ground cover? That would be my first question. And how are you currently managing it, if you do? Mangoes, I'm assuming you might be a little bit concerned about woody weeds if you start to reduce mowing, if you're in the kind of northern areas.
Abby, I can jump in if that helps.
Okay.
We
Yeah,
have
please.
we only really have weeds in winter. We have just sand in summer.
Oh, wow. Okay. Where
So
are you?
we're south of Perth, just on the southern edges of
Oh,
Perth.
okay, right. Okay, I was thinking East Coast. Okay, just sand in summer. Okay, yeah, well, that can happen in Bundaberg too. So I mean, in a situation like that, obviously you'd be thinking, well, what can I do at least to have ground cover year round?
Yeah.
And investigating what are the species, and sand's hard, I'll give you that. Are you irrigating?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So and what have you got, drip or some kind of sprinkler?
Sprinklers. Bunch of
Okay.
sprinklers.
And how far, what sort of radius have they got?
Most of them are on about 2 to 3 meter radius.
Okay, so
The
it's
established
going
orchard.
out, yeah, going out a bit from the trees then.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I would in your best growing season, I would start to think about how can you get seed out into those shoulder areas where you will have soil moisture, and sort of work from there, because you will get some kind of establishment going in the irrigated areas. Sometimes in those really, again, in those Bundaberg photos I showed you, those really compacted clay pan interrows, it's just all we want is grass. We want some sort of ground cover, and we go for the diversity closer into the trees where because cover crops, they're not, as I said to you, is this a silver bullet or not? They're not. If the soil's terrible and there's no soil moisture, they're not going to grow. If your trees are irrigated, your cover crop's going to need to be irrigated too. So is that, Lyndon, does that start to give you something to aim for?
Yeah. We've mulched under the tree, so we have kind of a strip of mulch directly under it, so we could do it adjacent to that, and kind of we get winter rain. That's our kind of rain season. So probably now is the time to think about getting some stuff in.
Yeah, and it's really important, like you just said, to tie it in with your current management calendar, and because again, you don't want to create additional work or work that starts to conflict with other things that you need to get done in the orchard. And you could see from some of those photos I was sharing with you how just growers have made some decisions about how they get in under their trees and how they harvest, and what they're putting in terms of their cover crops. So they might be going warm season active or cool season active or summer active, winter active, or more classic temperate climate stuff is going, plant before Anzac Day. That's a lot of cover crop species are actually broadacre species, and if you can get a seed mix in before Anzac Day, that can be winning. And then just before spring in temperate climates, they're the kind of two windows you're looking at. It's a bit different in the subtropics.
Great, thank you.
That's all right. If you think of anything else, let me know.
That's great. I wonder too, are there any common cover cropping species or interrow cover cropping species that are particularly like drought hardy or good in dry conditions?
It's a good question. And it's basically grass.
Yeah.
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 It's tropical grasses.
Yeah.
Because again, if it's that dry and that compromised, you just really need to hold on to your soil to start with. That matrix that I showed you, quite a few of those species are considered more hardy than others. But establishing seed without soil moisture and without appropriate some kind of nutrition available for seed germination, it's really hard. So it's a bit disappointing, let me say that. If you can't find ways, but as I showed you, we were getting seed mixes out, including fertilizer and seed coatings and a lot of stuff, just to try and give the seed that extra bit of boost to get going.
Yeah, that's a great discussion to get us started. Thank you both.
Thank you.
The next question is, what seed mixes were used in the avocado orchard trials in Bundaberg? I think you mentioned in your presentation. Any recommendations to increase pollinators in avocado orchards?
Yeah, so that grower, so some people want to have 12 different things in their seed mix, and some say, I just want 4 things. Or I just want to buy what I can get at the local produce store. And they're all good ideas. Again, it's kind of what you can manage at the time. So the grower that was telling me he wanted 4 things was very budget minded. And so we were looking, one of the reasons why cover crops is they're really cheap. The seed's incredibly cheap. So, you know, it might be, for example, $8 a kilo compared to $1,000 a kilo for vegetable or herb seeds. So that's part of the equation. We were with that avocado grower, we were looking at just whatever was available in terms of brassicas. They're very interchangeable brassicas. So that could be the tillage radish or daikon or mustard or something like that. Buckwheat is pretty good in avocados and usually pretty easy to establish. What else did we put in? We would have picked a grain, depending on whether it was summer or winter. So it could have been millet, or it could have been that would have been for going for summer. And if we were going for winter, I think we tried things like oats, which isn't really suitable for Queensland, but we just gave it a go. You just never know, honestly, from one season to the next. Something you never expect will suddenly boom and grow, and the other things you thought this will be a winner don't grow at all. It's another reason why you go for a mix. Does that give you a bit of an idea? For alternatively, have a look at what the local produce store is recommending. They probably will have a pre-bagged mix. That it's not a bad starting point. The problem with those is they include summer and winter all in one bag. So you know they'll have, for example, clovers, but you might want to be putting your seed out in spring. And so you've got 8 months of that seed unlikely to germinate, if at all. And vice versa, obviously, if you try to get it in autumn, anything that's meant to be summer active won't germinate. So that can be the downside, unless that, again, the pre-done mixes can actually get around that problem with their selection. So there's a couple of different ways to come at the problem.
Great, thank you. Oriel has asked, what plants would you recommend for early soil remediation under difficult soil conditions? So it does sort of link to earlier question, but so if you've got any other suggestions there.
I think that last slide I showed you where you could see the roots of, so again, 4 is sometimes a good beginner's number. 1 legume, a sorghum, a sunflower, and maybe something like buckwheat. They all have very specific root action, both like mechanical action, as you could see in those photos, but also chemical action in the soil. It's very beneficial in degraded, compacted soils. So that's not a bad place to start. But you can't just put a seed mix out without doing other work on the soil and expect that the seed mix solves all the problems. Over 3 years, it becomes part of solving the problems. So you might be chopping and dropping your seed mix in year 2 and year 3, and that's starting to add organic matter into the orchard. But in year 1, you might actually need to put out organic matter into the interrow to try and improve. And that, again, that could be slashing the grass that's already there and then seeding into the grass. There's lots of really cheap ways just to get started.
Did you have any follow-up questions, Oriel? Or did that answer your question? Oh, yes, you've got a follow-up question? Well, feel free to type it if there's any. Steps for year 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. So basically year one, what can you do with what you've already got? What machinery have you already got? How are you already making most of your management decisions for harvest and for pre-harvest preparation, etc.? So just try to work around that. Understanding the current soil condition and soil moisture in particular. Work with that and get a seed mix. Probably you can probably get something from a produce store pre-made just to get started. See what works and what doesn't. That's year one. And you might not get much going in year one, but if you've started to improve your soil along with putting seed out in year two, you should get some sort of result from year one where you think, okay, well, none of those. So cereals are often in seed mixes and they often fail in the interrow. So maybe, okay, no more cereals, or you had sunflower in the seed mix and you realized you had a rat problem. So no sunflowers next year. That sort of thing. And then by year three, and again, continuing to work on the soil. In year three, you might actually be really getting into it and thinking, maybe I need some specialised machinery, a different kind of mower, different kind of slasher, get someone in with a seeder. There's lots of little handheld seeders and things you can put on the back of your side-by-side and things like that, just to get seed out quickly. They're pretty affordable. So they're sort of simple steps. And by year three, if you've been making little observations and improvements, I would expect in year three you should start to get a result of decent establishment. And from there, you know, the magnificent results that some of those photos that I showed you.
Amazing. It's a good timeline to work
3 years
through.
is quite good. Because you can also completely destroy soil in 3 years. So think of it in reverse.
Amazing. Russell has asked, are you always crimp rolling cover crops, and what timing works best?
So the crimp roller really comes from broadacre cover cropping. And the whole you may already know this, Russell, but the whole point of the crimp roller is that it terminates the cover crop. So it snaps the stem. So it terminates the cover crops rather than using a herbicide. But it keeps the living root in the ground. So there's minimal soil disturbance. But because it's broadacre, it's a large area. I've only known one grower to really systematically use a crimp roller, and that was on the front of the tractor and the seeder was on the back, and he just had this kind of integrated system and went round and round and round, sometimes 3, 4, 5 times a year. That I don't know that crimp roller is really necessary in orchards, you know, because you're not going for that kind of timing that you are with broadacre farming, where you need to get all the seed out at a very specific time. You can really just please yourself with what you put out and when you put it out in an orchard interrow. So I think it's more about just exactly how much money you want to spend, and also whether you think you need that more, you know, very precise timing around getting a cover crop out or replaced. Depending on what your orchard is, that's really the benefit of the crimp roller.
Great. Charlie has asked, they've got older mango trees that are planted on narrow row spacing of 6.5 meters. And they have been planting cover crops between, but are concerned about damaging the tree roots in the ground prep. Should they be concerned?
That's a good question. I don't know about tree management of mangoes. I'm just going to say that up front. So I would definitely get a mango crop consultant to talk that through with. But I will say people were quite concerned about this with macadamias, for example, when we started this kind of work. And actually what people found was the trees love it. They love a bit of root ripping. So, but and then there's this. Yeah, look, it's so specific to the trees, but it didn't cause the kinds of problems some people were concerned it would. And in fact, prior to cover cropping, ripping beside the trees had been one of the main strategies for trying to deal with soils that weren't draining anymore in macadamias. So I think that definitely cover crops can solve that problem. Over a number of years, you can really improve water infiltration and general water flow through the soil profile. So yeah, does that help answer that question? I'd just be asking someone who really does understand mangoes specifically about what kind of root disturbance they tolerate. But if they don't tolerate it, there's plenty of room, as I've showed you in other crops in the Interrow, of having strips elsewhere.
Could you expand on that? Where else would you have strips if the Interrow?
Well, again, it depends on the width of the Interrow. So what this person said, they had 6.5 meters. Just reading not sure how old the trees are. So has the canopy closed over, I wonder?
Feel free to jump in, Charlie, if you'd like to share.
So your main question is, should you be concerned about your tree roots? Well, yeah. Good. It's a good thing.
They're older trees,
yeah,
like they're 20, 30 years old.
Yep.
I keep the canopy open for light down the sides. I get plenty of grass growing there, like bracky and guinea grass, which is a problem as far as I mulch it hard to reduce that, and then I plant with a double disc planter. But I'm always battling to get good soil to seed contact for germination. That's why I'm asking this question. Yeah.
I think you're just generally on the journey of soil improvement, Charlie, through time. And then, obviously looking after your trees is important. And hence ask that question. And I just a general point about if you can't even grow grass in your orchard, you are not going to grow a cover crop. So it's good to know you've already got grass, Charlie. And so that's a good starting point. Because that means there's enough sunshine for grass to grow. A cover crop therefore will grow. Because again, it's often people want to start out with this stuff thinking, oh, I've got no ground cover. Cover crops will solve that problem. And no, if grass is not growing there, nothing's going to grow there.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think that's probably all I can add for your question at this time, Charlie.
Okay, thanks. The other thing I do is I graze it with sheep in the off season. And that brings further biodiversity into the system.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I mean, I've known people that bring cattle in and chickens, all to great success, I would have to say. Yeah. Just as a side issue, I thought I'd add, again, how you have to really tailor this to your crop. One custard apple grower that I worked with, custard apples are quite sensitive to humidity, the fruit. And so there was a very specific point in those orchards where we did get excellent cover crop going in the Interrow there, but they had to terminate that cover crop quite quickly once humidity kind of collided with the maturity of the crop. So again, these are all the very specific things to consider. And in a lot of ways, you probably already know, like a custard apple grower is going to know the fruit's sensitive to humidity, and therefore the way they manage the Interrow needs to be part of that consideration.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
I might jump in with a little follow-up question to that. Love to know about ways to bring diversity into the orchard beyond interrows. Say if someone, the soil management or soil isn't quite ready for a cover crop, or there's other kind of constraints, what are the other options available for getting insectaries or other sort of diversity into the orchard system?
So as I said, if you have grass, so if nothing grows, including grass, you've got a lot of problems. And you really need to be rethinking a lot about what's going in that orchard. whether that's tree removal or limb removal or, because you have to have sunshine to the orchard floor. If you do have grass, then reduced mowing is a great option. And a lot of insects, including bees, will visit the flowers of grasses because they have a lot of pollen, and a lot of insects will feed on that. So just letting your grasses go to seed is quite a simple strategy. There's a lot of weeds, so-called weeds, like things like cobbler's pegs, Biden's pilosa. I know everybody calls that something different, but Biden's pilosa. So that's actually a relative of sunflower and has the same below the ground benefits, and is also very, very attractive to things like hoverflies and native bees. And if you can bear to leave those growing, although Ross might disagree, there is a point where too much is too much with Biden's pilosa. But there are weeds that are pretty tolerable and have a lot of benefits. So again, you can sort of reduce your overall management of weeds and grasses. Does that sort of answer that question, Talia?
Yeah. It does. And permanent insectaries have you seen people do those successfully?
People explore, for example, perimeter.
Yeah.
I've heard people talk about, should we remove rows, particularly in dark orchards, and replace it with native vegetation? I've never seen anyone do it. I think for some obvious practical reasons, you just leave yourself with more flexibility if you do it with cover crops, rather than trying to put perennials in. But around the perimeter is an excellent area to get native vegetation strips going. I think there's some good research that's been done in vineyards. We've talked about that, about where you can grow native vegetation, and they have a lot of success with native grasses in vineyards. Native grasses can be quite hard. They don't like traffic. So they can be quite hard to get going in a lot of orchards with a lot of traffic. But in vineyards are quite successful. But yeah, perennials, all of the usual callistemons, etc., the usual suspects that are flowering year round and are very, very attractive to the pollinating insects in particular. You kind of can't go wrong. There is always a concern about, should I be screening for this attracting a pest of my crop? And yeah, you should ask that question and do a little bit of research.
Awesome. Thank you.
No
I think
worries.
we've probably just got time for maybe one more question. There's one from Julie. And you did mention water infiltration improvements earlier, but she's asked, have your growers seen improved water infiltration through the adoption of Interrow covers? And sort of like the time frame that the improvements in yield, have they been observed within 3 years?
Okay, it's really hard to, I'm just going to start with yield. It's really hard to tie this specifically to yield. There's just too much else, always too many other decisions are being made at the same time. I've never heard of it being linked to a decline in yield. And there's good evidence that it decreases insect pest pressure and hosts biologicals, so biological controls of insect pests, and can reduce fungal pathogens and other. So there's good evidence for that. But in terms of yield, nobody will go out on a limb and say yes to that. But that's the case with a lot of these kinds of farm management decisions. They're not really about yield. They're about other things. They're about sort of long-term productivity and sustainability, and conserving on farm, whether it's your soil moisture or your insect biodiversity, conserving that on farm so that you're not vulnerable to heat waves or to cyclones, etc. The major ecological disruptions that can absolutely impact yield in the wrong direction. So that's probably the best way to think about these things. And then there was sort of part of that question was also about water infiltration. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally. selecting some of these species with, for example, the tillage radish, that just smashes through clay pans. It's incredible. Things like that. Again, part of that is improving just the soil organic matter and bringing in the cover crops and mulching them into the interrow. It will increase soil organic matter and improve soil infiltration. But it's a lot of, there's a lot in the living root in the ground with this. That's part of why cover crops are important, and not just putting out mulch, but this having the living root in the ground is really, really important in terms of soil health.
Amazing. That's a really lovely note to end on, I think. The potential of improving soil health. So thank you so much, Abigail, for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. And thanks everyone for joining and for your questions. Especially, those that have come along to a couple of convos. It's been great to see you. I will just quickly share my screen again. So this is the last convo of this series, but we have more in the pipeline. There'll be another series next year, the year after that, and we're also planning some upcoming webinars. So if you'd like to keep in the loop about those, feel free to, I think Madison's going to pop a link in the chat, and sign up for Orchard Resilience Project updates. Also, if there's anyone you'd like to hear from or particular topics you'd like us to cover, definitely let us know. We're all ears. And lastly, but not least, we also have that survey that Madison will pop in the chat as well. Really value your time. It's only 5 questions, so it doesn't take too long in providing some feedback. And again, just a big thank you to Abigail for joining us and inspiring us all to consider diversifying our interrows. Thanks very much for joining, everyone.